As a parent of an athlete or as a coach of an athlete, one of the scariest statements that you might hear your young athletes say is that they might come to you one day and say, I don't want to play anymore. Or, I don't think I love the game anymore. Well, when that happens, what do you do? How do you respond to that? And how do you help a young athlete work through some of those feelings of not being sure if they want to continue playing the sport that perhaps you as a family have invested a lot of time in? Well, these are some of the things that we hope to be able to speak to today on the Coaching Life podcast. As much as possible, we'd like to help you if you're in this situation, or young people who might be in this situation, to make a wise and informed decision, and one that you won't regret later in life. So, let's get after it.
Welcome to the Coaching Life podcast. My name's Pat Martin. I'm here with my good friend, Coach Stewart. Coach, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great.
Good. Coach, I have something I need to talk to you about. I'm thinking this might actually be my last episode on the Coaching Life podcast.
You got better things to do you?
Well, I don't know, not necessarily better things to do, but I don't know that my heart is in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know if I'm really. I feel like I might just be taking up space here in the podcast studio.
Just because a few listeners commented and said that Pat's heart doesn't seem like it's in it anymore doesn't mean that you call it quits now.
Well, I don't know.
I'm joking with everybody. We didn't.
Wait, did they Wait, hold on a second. Was that true? Did they reach out to you and let you know that?
No. I'm not.
Well, I'm gonna have
now
to
you're self-conscious about it.
I'm gonna have to check the Coaching Life email to see what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, so you're telling me that we got a team here that's 50-50, right? So it's not 50-50. We both bring 100% all the time, and so now you're telling me that you're splitting the team up.
Splitting it up.
All right.
Yeah.
It's going to be the...
I'll probably end up with my own podcast just to...
You probably will.
That's how things like that normally work.
Okay, Mike Greenberg.
Wait a second. Does that mean I'm what's Mike Greenberg?
Metrosexual?
Metrosexual. That's what I was going with. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not even sure what that is.
I don't either. Right. I remember that Mike. Yeah, we're not just saying that of Mike Greenberg. Mike and Mike talked about that all the time. Yeah, how long have they not been on anymore?
It's been a while. It's kind of crazy.
That was really the last time I listened to ESPN radio, to be quite honest, because they don't have anyone on there that interests me now. Ever since then.
Yeah. Not
a big fan.
Ryan Casilio was on there. I listened to him a little bit, but.
Yeah, my favorite guys were Tony Kornheiser when he was on there. Yeah, and then they replaced him with Colin Cowherd. Yeah, and I actually like Dan Patrick. I like Dan Patrick and Rob Dibble. Your favorite, your favorite.
Have we told the Rob Dibble story?
Yeah, we've told the Rob Dibble
on
story.
The podcast.
Yeah, you and Rob Dibble aren't buddies.
He blocked me on Twitter.
Rob Dibble doesn't like Pat Martin.
It was his joke that I gave him, and he blocked me on Twitter. I can't believe it.
One of the nasty boys.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess he really is nasty.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Can't take a joke.
Well, a guy that gets in a fight with his head coach in the clubhouse, I guess. Will they remember that when they were throwing
that? Yeah. Yeah. He had a little bit of that. He had a little edge to him. Yeah. I was at the game where he threw the ball up in the stands and hit that lady in the arm.
Oh, really?
And then he had to give her a bunch of free stuff at the hospital. Yeah, I was there. I was in college. We saw it. I saw him do it. He blew a save.
Was that a Braves game?
I don't remember who they were playing.
You don't remember?
But he blew a save.
Was it a night game?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
It might have been. I mean, it might have been one of those games that...
Neat story, Coach. Come on, man.
Well, I mean, all I remember is that. I don't remember those details, but I mean, they were the home team, and so they still had a chance to bat. But they were ahead when he went out there, and he blew the save. And so when the third out came, the ball was rolled back to the mound. He picked that sucker up and launched it. And
come on, is that really that bad of a thing? I mean, foul balls.
Trevor Bauer. Oh wait, we can't talk about Trevor Bauer, can we?
Oh,
where's he at? Is he still in existence?
He's canceled. He's doing YouTube stuff right now. He also said
he's still doing YouTube stuff because he's been doing YouTube stuff.
Oh, I thought he. Well,
he may have taken a break for a while.
I thought he did, and then he came back and said, "Hey, I'm going to start doing my content again," or something like that. But he said, "I'll be back soon." So he seems pretty confident that I don't know. It seems, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the game always has guys like that. Bauer's kind of like. I mean, Bauer's nothing new. I mean, he's not new. I mean, he likes to think he is, but the game's always had guys like him.
Sure, he's just
just a different generation of that.
Different generation. And he knows how to work the platform.
Exactly.
Around him. So
I mean, if these guys today would have watched Bob Gibson and the way he played, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different level of craziness.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got on a tangent.
What were we talking about
What's the
again?
topic of the day?
I think at different times in our coaching lives, and even this is a parenting topic as well. Everyone kind of deals with this. Well, I don't know that everyone does, but I know it's a conversation that's had quite often, and you hear things like, "Well, if you start, you can't quit." That old thing. But sometimes our kids, our players, they come to us and they say, "I don't know if I want to play this year."
That's a scary comment to hear. If you're a coach, it's scary. Because it's probably a kid that you don't want any of your kids to quit, or you don't want any of your kids to, I guess, leave the game. We shouldn't use. I don't like using the word quit here because I mean it's not necessarily quit has become a no word and a no thing, really a no attribute, and there are a lot of reasons for that. I tend to agree with the majority of those reasons. But I think we're talking here about a player who has decided to, sometimes we have players who decide that they want to leave the sport.
Yeah.
They no longer want to play it for one reason or another.
It's a fork in the road.
If a player,
go a different direction.
if a player comes to you and says that, it's a scary thing to hear as a coach, but it's a devastating thing for a parent to hear. And there might be a parent right now who's listening. I mean, especially if you're a parent who loves sports, right? You want your kid. You've raised your kids in sports, and they've loved it. You've loved it. You've loved the enjoyment. You've built friendships and around the sport and everything. And your kid comes to you one day and says, "Dad, Mom," probably more so with Dad. Moms could deal with this kind of stuff more. I don't know. There's some. I mean, these moms that buy the T-shirts that say baseball mom and all this stuff. Yeah, right.
Don't upset the listeners.
That's right,
Coach.
For those parents together, moms and dads who just absolutely love the sport and all the social life that comes with it. To hear your son or daughter say, "I don't think I want to play anymore," is a scary concept.
It is.
It changes your life. It has the potential to change your life.
That's for sure.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
It's going to change theirs. It's going to change theirs, the kids, because they're going to fill that emptiness with something else. And you just always hope that it's positive things that they're going to fill it with.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to leave a huge gap.
In a lot of places, yeah. But you think about when someone thinks about a kid that is that is fully committed to the game of baseball. You're talking about a kid that's playing baseball from February through November, maybe. You know what I mean? That could be legit.
It's too much ball, in my opinion. But
it's a lot of ball.
I don't like fall ball, to be quite honest. I just don't.
What if you just play fall ball, not spring ball?
Why?
Mix that up on you.
Why would you do that?
Because baseball is meant to be played in the fall, Coach.
Well, I don't disagree. Depending on where you live, here in Ohio, I can take that. I would not mind at all if they decide to switch up football and baseball seasons. In Ohio.
I won't.
It's an exciting baseball time right now. Fall is exciting.
It is. It's fun. Okay. But I agree. I think I agree with what you're saying. There is definitely a threshold there.
When you first brought this topic up to me last night, I assumed that you were talking about a kid that's playing on your fall ball team or playing baseball. And some of my answers were, well, tell him to stop playing fall ball. He's burned out by now. He's been playing baseball all spring, all summer, and now in the fall, and he's probably like, I kind of want to do other things. I want to go hunt. I want to do. And you're know why I wasn't a baseball player that I'm talking about.
I don't know why you always go to baseball, Coach. I don't understand.
Exactly.
It's like you almost.
It's like you don't know who I am.
But yeah, I think, it's like you said, it's scary, it's confusing. There's some uncertainty there. There's some why, and I think we've, in relation to what we are just talking about, there's always a possibility of burnout, put that in quotes. A kid gets to a point where they just feel like they've played so much that it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is it's hard to manage. It's a balancing act. And the problem is once you get to that stage, it's too late. Right. And on the flip side of that, normally you're trying to combat this feeling of, man, I really want to play. And the kid is not playing because you're trying to manage the amount of the time that they are playing. So they keep that desire, keep that hunger to play. And people kind of question, why are you doing that? If they want to play, why don't you let them play? So it's a tricky situation, but yeah, we're going to tell everyone how to handle that today, aren't we? Not
well,
really,
that's our goal is to tell you how to handle it, right? And or give some advice, but how would we handle it? I know, like when you asked me this question last night, my first thought, I really honest was like, this is going to be a 30-second podcast because you said I got a topic for you. What if a kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, coach, I don't think I love the game anymore"? What was my answer? Do you remember?
I think your response was, okay, this is probably going to get us in trouble, coach, but I'll go ahead and say it. Okay, pick up an instrument.
Right. Well,
what was your point there?
It's not a negative point. Oh, I see why you're thinking it might get us in trouble with a certain demographic of people, but it's not a negative point at all. It was just like, okay, better do something else.
Yeah,
useful.
I got you.
Yeah, you better, if you're going to stop playing. I told my kids this before. If you come to me, this is really kind of how I handled it with them when they were younger. I said, if you decide that you don't want to play sports anymore, it's taking up a large chunk of our lives, and it's something that I think that we're investing in, and it's helping to build who we are, as people, both individually and as a family. And so if you decide that you no longer want to play this game anymore, then whatever season it is, then you better figure out something to do in its place. I mean, Brock decided to stop playing football.
Right.
Right.
Why?
I decided to stop playing football when I was in high school.
Why?
And for him, his reason was he had not yet been recruited to play baseball in college, which is what he wanted to do. And so he considered, all of the variables. He considered the cost, as I told you when we were talking about this a little bit, and made his list of reasons of, okay, if I decide to stop playing this year, if I'm no longer going to play, here's the reason why, and here's what I'm going to do instead. And so for him, he basically took he had to work physically, he had to work out harder because he was not getting the football athletic workouts that you're going to get by playing the sport. Sure. Which I tried to encourage him in that sense and say, look, if you keep playing football, you can it's going to be good for you. That competitiveness is going to be good for you, right?
Absolutely.
And it's going to help you in baseball. But his issue was, and this is an unfortunate thing, but it's just reality. His issue was he needed to go and visit schools, and he had signed. He was going to sign up for some camps. When are those camps? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some of them weren't close by either. I mean, we drove 8 hours sometimes to go visit a school.
Gotcha.
The camp would start on Saturday morning. Just can't. He was going to miss some football games.
Right.
And so I said, so in your list here, you've got a list of camps that you want to attend, and it looks like 4 of those are going to basically draw a line through the football game that night. So you got 10 football games in a regular season. If you don't make the playoffs, is your coach going to be okay with you missing 4 of those? So he went and talked to the coach and went and, and he hashed out all of these scenarios, and basically it came down to the point to where he said, okay, this is time for me to walk away. And so in his case, I don't know. We have to ask him if has any regrets about that. I don't know. Maybe we did ask him when he was on the podcast. I doubt that he does. I doubt that he has any regrets because of what he was able to accomplish instead.
Sure.
But I think there's probably I know that he missed some things, right?
Yeah,
and,
right.
And you miss out on some of those opportunities to build those deeper friendships, be part of that team. I mean, they had some great experiences also in football when he was in high school here at Athens. But it's in his case, it was a long process, and I think that's what I would say to people, right? Make sure it's a process. Make sure that have patience with this. Make sure that it's a process. And I think, I'm getting way ahead of myself because I actually did jot down some ideas for what we can do as parents and as coaches, if a kid comes to us and says this. But I think we have to start with that question, why?
Yes.
You mentioned it. And that's a realistic question to ask. Okay, why? Why do you feel this way?
Right.
What are some of your reasons that you're saying this?
Yeah, and I would even go a little bit further with that, and you have to think about that. Why? Well, what led you to this point? How long have you been thinking about this? But also, why do you play in the first place?
Yeah,
that's important. And I my perspective of that, I've been thinking about this a lot. Obviously, we had the conversation last night, and I kind of looked back and did some reflection. And I think, back when I was in high school, I played baseball. I thought I played baseball because I loved the game. So I think that's what the large majority of kids would say. And I do love the game. That's a true statement. But when I look back on my time playing baseball, more so than the games or instances in the games or moments in the games that I remember the people.
Yeah.
I remember, my friends and my family and just those faces that were a part of that experience. And I think it kind of made me realize as I was thinking back on it, that's really why I played. I don't know that everybody feels the same way, but I think there's an aspect of that everybody experiences a little bit. You just mentioned a little bit ago with football. Everyone, I've heard.
I think that's a huge aspect in the game of football.
Yeah, that was so. My son Jake, he just started playing football last year as an 8th grader. First time he'd ever played. He played some flag football when he was really young. He's just never played. And actually, Colter Cleveland's dad, Cass, Coach Cleveland, was one that kind of talked him into playing, and that was one of the reasons that he gave him. He said there's just no other experience like being a part of a football team, being out on the football field. You can't find it anywhere else.
I think, and there's probably some correlation to the fact that there are so many unpleasant experiences while you're playing the game of football, right? I mean, especially in practices and workout. I mean, it's a hard sport to play, and I think there's some correlation to the fact. You hear these. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Especially Jocko Willink. We've mentioned him a lot on here, of guys who've been to war and they come back home and they just want to go back. They want to. It's all they talk about is their brothers and what they experienced there. I'm like, you want to go back to war? I mean, that's a horrible experience. But there's something I think that when you walk through those experiences together that are tough, that are hard, that are dangerous, they do something to bond the people who walk through them together.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the reasons why football has such a bonding, memorable, create memories, Friday Night Lights, look back on it with fondness, and because it's that kind of sport.
Yeah.
I do have a little formula here for you, a little theory for how can you tell when someone really truly loves the game?
Oh, okay.
Right, and plays the game because they genuinely love the game.
All right, let's hear it.
They play it by themselves. Oh. Those are the kids that go out and play step ball.
Yeah.
Right? I can tell the kids that love the game because, like right now, today, because those are the kids that are gathering up some buddies and saying, let's go out to the field and hit when we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Like not during practice time.
Yep.
Those are the guys that when I show up, they're behind the dugout throwing a tennis ball and fielding backhands and forehands, things like that.
Yeah, good stuff.
and that's and it is you and then there are a lot of guys that play because it's fun. They love their friends. It's a social thing, right? They don't necessarily want to get, and I'm not even sure that it's always about just getting better. Like I never thought about getting better when I was out there playing step ball. I was just enjoying it. I was just having fun throwing it up against the steps and pretending I was catching fly balls and ground balls and throwing people out and all that stuff.
I live in my childhood home.
Right. That's kind of cool.
We recently got a front porch built onto the house, and to do that we had to tear down this block concrete block porch.
Right.
And there's holes all in the front of that porch because I didn't use a baseball. I used a super ball. You know what a super ball is? It's kind of it's a little bit smaller than a baseball.
How'd you play with that? That thing just goes everywhere. The little tiny. You get them for a quarter at Kroger in the in the machine.
These were bigger.
The bigger super ball, but still those things bounce like crazy.
They did. They bounced really good, and so that's what I would use to play step ball, and just throw it against the ground,
right?
Bounce off those fun stuff. But I played full seasons and kept my records.
Oh heck yeah!
I would say it as that.
You're the stats guy,
and I did that. The funny thing with that, coach, is it's kind of odd. I did not play baseball as a 10-year-old or as an 11-year-old, so I missed my 10U and 11. My first year of Little League basically, and my last year of first kid pitch, first year kid pitch, or first time kid pitch. But all through that time, I played wiffle ball.
You still did
rag
all those
ball
things.
And step ball.
Yeah.
That's I played probably during that time more than any other time. It's kind of weird. I've never really thought about that. But
I think that you might have a kid who truly loves the game and is one of those play it by yourself type kids who comes to you and says, I don't know if I want to play this year. But I think those you're probably not getting.
Yeah, but would you say they're the exception? Actually,
absolutely. Yeah. I think this thought reaches every athlete's mind at some point. Mm-hmm. I really do. I was reading. I brought a book in here in the studio today. It's a book that I've read. I read it this past summer while we were on vacation. It's called "Compete Every Day" by Jake Thompson. He also, he has a podcast which is just a really short. If you follow his podcast, he posts almost every other day, and it's just like little 7-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, no longer than 10 minutes usually episode of just some of the thoughts that he has established both in the book, but also on his website and in his training. He owns his own company. He calls himself the Chief Encouragement Officer. He's the CEO of his own company, which is called Compete Every Day, and he's the Chief Encouragement Officer. But in his book, he actually talks about, and I thought I remembered this as we were sort of discussing this idea last night. He gives a couple of examples of when he was tempted to quit something. He was tempted to quit football when he was in high school, his junior year, and that reasoning was because he was having a terrible year. He wasn't playing well, and so there were times where he was just like, maybe I'm done, right? Maybe I just can't. And it's not fun. It's not fun when you're not playing well.
I've had that.
Right, right.
I was much older,
and then and then the other time was earlier in his life when he was like 10 years old. He wanted to quit baseball, and that had to do with the fact that he was a little bit frightened. That 10U year, 9-10 year, you're first starting to have kids pitch. When you step in the batter's box, and when you first start to play kid pitch, the pitchers aren't very good, so you're gonna get hit. Kids are going to get plunked.
Yep.
And and so that creates a fear and all that. And he said, I think that it sort of just was rooted in that. And he said his father sat him down like many fathers do and say, look, we don't quit what we start. You started the season, so you're going to see it all the way through. And he said, I was really ticked off. I threw a fit because I really wanted to quit and it wasn't fair. I stormed off. But he said my dad kind of stood his ground and said, let's keep at it. And once he finished that season, what happened was this, to make a long story short, was good things started happening, and he really enjoyed it, and he kind of forgot about the fear, and then there was just never any talk about it anymore. I mean, it was just like, I think that speaks to the fact that we will all have that thought in a whimsical moment in our lives, but don't don't make the decision quickly.
Yes.
Make it a process. But here's the part that I wanted to read to you. He talked about how Olympic medalist gymnast Nastia Liukin once said that every time she would try to quit gymnastics, now this is an Olympic medalist, okay, a famous gymnast. She said every time she would try to quit gymnastics, her mom would agree, but only after she had had a great day at practice. So basically she would say her mom told her never quit after a bad day, and it was just drilled into Nastia's brain. Don't ever quit after a bad day.
That's great.
But her mom knew that once Nastia had a really good day on the mat, she wouldn't want to quit.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. She did say that if she still did want to quit after a genuinely great day, that was allowed.
Because that's the test right there.
Yeah.
That's your validation.
Right. Right.
How serious you are about that. I guess the commitment to do something else. Mm-hmm. Right. To go in a different direction.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for some kids, the feeling is real, mm-hmm. and their alternative plans are good.
Yeah.
Their alternative aspirations are good. And even though you may not like it as a coach or as a parent, you might have to say, okay, I support you.
Yeah, I really like that there. One of the things about not, the we're going to finish the season thing, you can't quit in the middle of the season. Well, you hear that a lot from parents. The problem is what happens typically is that the kid still quits. Mm-hmm. They just keep showing up to the games.
Yeah.
And that's
a good point.
That's worse, in my opinion, than allowing them to move on, Mm-hmm. So I really like this approach that Jake Thompson's talking about here of just, the process, thinking about this, evaluating it, really be able to be confident in the decision that you're making. Don't make it on a whim. Don't let it be a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
Think about why you played. Mm-hmm. And what you're going to do when you don't play.
Yeah, make a list. Make a list of those things.
Sure.
Right? To answer that question, why? Why did I play the game? Like if you're already thinking past tense, like I want to quit. Okay, but let's make sure. Let's just make sure. And I think the reason why, and I mentioned this to you last night. I said I really do think that as coaches and as parents, it's worth it to try to talk kids into sticking it out.
Yeah.
Right. To stick with it. In fact, I think that's one of the podcast episodes that Jake Thompson has. It's just an episode called "Stick with Itness." It's a word that he made up. Stick with itness. We need some more stick with itness, and I think it's worth it to talk kids into trying to stick it out. And here's why: because a lot of times when kids say they want to quit something or they want to stop playing or they want to leave the sport, it's because they have other things, other interests that they've not been able to give themselves to. Because of the sport, and they feel like I want to do more of those things. Yeah. Right? Like in our area, it might be I want to hunt more, or I just bought a car and I want to be able to work on it, and things like that.
Yeah,
or I want to get a job. I need to get a job. That's a big one. Or I got a girlfriend, and it's or it's all of those things. Or I picked up an instrument. Right? It could be anything. And my initial thought to that is, okay, do those things also. Those are great hobbies. Maybe what you need to do is to stop. Maybe too much of your life is consumed with the sport, but keep playing the sport. But go ahead and pick up one of those hobbies and do them in addition to playing the sport, and see how that adjusts things in your life. And I think the reason why it's good, I'm going to come back to the reason why I think it's good to talk kids into it, to keep playing, is because all of those other things that I just mentioned, hunting, chasing girls, fixing cars, playing instruments, things like that. Those are all things that you can do the rest of your life.
I can't do that anymore.
Well, maybe one of those things we got to cross off the list, right? Yeah. We should cross those off the list.
Are we editing that out?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Yes, that's
Chastity.
right. Exactly.
I love you.
That's right. We're talking to high school kids here, right?
Right.
Yeah, and there's gonna come a day when you've found the one, and that pursuit is over. So we'll say that. So
and I have
all of those other
clarify.
things. Yes. That's emphasized here. All of those hunting is a wonderful thing, relaxing thing.
Yeah.
you can do it until you die.
That's true.
I mean, you can do it until you physically can't go out and do it anymore.
Yeah, fishing.
Right? Play a guitar, play an instrument.
Yeah.
You can do that until you die. You will always be able to do it. But here's the thing, kids. These moments that you have to play a sport with your friends are extremely limited. And so you may wake up today and feel like you don't love it anymore. But for one, don't trust your feelings. We talked about that last week, right?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Yeah. Don't trust your feelings. Stop giving in to your feelings all the time, and let's start making a rational, conscious, educated choice by sitting down and make this into a process. Write things down. What are you going to do instead? How are you going to fill the gap? Right? What do you love about the sport? What have you loved about it up to this point? And just realize what you're going to be walking away from.
That's a good thought. As you're talking about that, something it keeps pinging me. I've heard this excuse before of why kids want to quit. And it just, of the examples that you're giving there, even in this decision-making process, it makes it sound so horrible. And that is, can't stand the coach. Where does that fit? What are you going to do differently because you can't stand the coach? Right? That's a legit reason kids quit.
It's a reason.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think it's legit.
You're right.
I really don't
it's
think
very,
it's legit.
very good point. And I think if you're
not going to be able to stand every boss you have either, or all the people you work with all your life. Get over that. Get over that.
You better believe that's the truth.
If a kid's come to me and they say that, that's a different conversation that I have with them. You know? Like the coach is not bigger than the game.
Yeah, and don't let someone take away something that you love.
Yes.
Don't let someone make you give away a part of who you are.
And I know that's a common thing. I mean, it's probably one of the most common reasons why kids say they want to quit, stop playing a sport.
Yeah.
But I think we got to stamp that. We got to put our foot down on that one a little bit more than we.
Well, and the reason I bring it up is just because I think if you go through this process of evaluating that, the purposes, the whys, I think you'll rule that out as a legit reason. You can't. I don't think you can get to that being a reason that you quit or go a different direction, as we say.
And make no mistake, we're not saying play for an abusive coach. If your coach is abusive, they shouldn't be there.
Well, I think there's other channels to go, even at that stage.
Right. It's not about you leaving the game. It's about let's figure out how to how to go to the proper people to report this.
Yeah, exactly.
And you still get to play, but yeah.
You say that about you said the opportunity to play with your friends and have that experience with them is so limited, and I think you can see that if you stop at any softball field on the weekends where you got these old guys like me out there trying to relive some of that magic that used to be, and it's just, trust me, is not there anymore. I think that drives a lot of that. You know what I mean? It's a feel good emotion. It's a memory that is hard to let go of.
Yeah.
And they're hard to let go of because they mean so much to you.
Right.
And they're so valuable to you in life. And it's a really good point. And that's why I mentioned at the beginning about, why are you really playing? And I don't think it's always just about the game. And I talk to a lot of kids about playing baseball. I like to, and I did last night. We had basketball conditioning last night, and I was asking. There's actually some new kids that moved into the district this year, and I introduced myself to them, and my first question was, "What's your name?" My second question was, "Do you play baseball?"
Why is that?
Well, I always try to recruit kids to play the game of baseball. Okay. But everyone always responds, I like it, but I'm not very good at it.
Right. You've said that before. Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
that's not the question I asked.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You don't necessarily do something because you're good at it. You do something because you love doing it. Mm-hmm. And there's you got to evaluate these things. And I think
you do.
Like you said, there's a process you go through, the rational decision. Put some facts behind it. Don't trust your feelings. Make lists. Why not? What are you going to replace it with? Why not? And just to make it easier,
because then you're less likely to regret it later.
Absolutely.
We will always, if you make a quick whimsical decision, you leave a lot more chance that you're going to regret it later. But if you really did sit down, I mean, Kaylee there was a girl on Kaylee's softball team who was a really good player, leadoff hitter, played third base. I mean, she was a really, she was an impact player, and she decided she didn't want to play anymore. And I remember I went after her. I said, hey, let's talk about this. And you know what? She was taking more college courses. She already had in mind she knew what she wanted to do for her academics after high school and what she wanted to do for a career. And so she wanted to work a job. She had an opportunity to do an internship in the spring and be around that and kind of go ahead and get a jump on that. And she said, I'm just kind of ready to turn the page.
Yeah.
And you know what I could say to that? Okay.
Yeah.
I had nothing left to say. She really considered the cost.
It's a good story. And it's a good point, because I think a lot of times, most athletes, I would say, actually, that's true. Most athletes make the decision. Most high school athletes that are going to college make the decision not to play a sport in college.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
the percentage is very low, right?
Oh, right.
So, but a big deal is hardly ever made about that. You might have an elite player that's going to say that says, I'm not going to play in college.
Yeah, I actually had that.
I know you did.
Right.
And that's going to shock people. Wow, really? I can't believe they're not playing. But most of the time, when a high school athlete decides that they're going to go to college and not play a sport, the parents aren't impacted.
Yeah.
They don't balk. They're
95% of the people, their career ends the day they graduate high school. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or the last day they will play the last game in high school.
And I think the reason it's so easy to say, that makes sense, is because and everybody knows, the player knows, the coach knows, the parents know, that they're replacing that with something else. So something that's valid.
That's actually going to impact the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's easy.
Most of the kids that decide that they don't want to play anymore are not replacing it with something that's going to impact them the rest of their life, I guess, in a positive way. Some kids, if you're not careful, you will replace it. Okay, kids, if you're listening, if you decide you don't want to play, you're going to replace it with something.
Yeah.
You will. I've seen it go both ways, and it's a tragedy when a kid decides he doesn't want to play anymore, and then he shows up to your games and he's standing in the outfield and he's drunk and he's hanging out with friends and he's being a butthole out there. Right? I've seen that. And I'm like, you know what? That kid used to play on this team. And something made him decide just didn't want to play anymore. And what's he replaced it with? That.
Yeah. And there's your answer for why you want to go and try
talking about it, because you see those things happen sometimes. Yeah, I mean, in that kid's case, it was taking up too much of his time, and he wanted to have fun. To have fun his senior year with his friends. Okay, how'd that work out for you? Yeah,
that one hurts.
So as parents, what can you do? And I think that's the tough part, because we probably don't have many kids that listen, and so we have more parents that listen than kids, I should say. That's not true. I know we do have kids that listen. I shouldn't say that. And so hopefully they've received something from the conversation. But I think it's tough on parents who love the sport and love the life that you've built around the sport. And so I think one of the first things you got to do is take a breath. You got to pause,
part of the
because
process.
you immediately want to start talking. And what you might need to do is listen, right? Yeah. So press pause and listen, and that's scary, but it's a really important first step. Listen to their reasons why. Listen to, their list that hopefully they're making. Don't panic. I think that's probably number 2 point. Don't panic. Don't allow your feelings to come out, and don't trust your own feelings on this. And I think one of the ways that you can help is you can talk about the issue of love, right? Love for the game. Let's see if we can find love in it again, like our love for it again, and talk about what we do to find the love again. For example, I think when we all start a new job, we're excited about it, right? I mean, in life, your career, you know, if you get an opportunity to, you know, you've applied for a job, it's something that you want to do, you see it and you're excited about it. And then when you start it, you love it. Well, there comes a time when you probably don't feel like you love it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So what do? Do you quit it? You know, some people have the, you know, the opportunity to say, well, yeah, if I don't like it, I'm just going to quit. And they're so dynamic and charismatic, they can get a job anywhere. Well, that doesn't fit the majority of people in this world.
Yeah.
You don't just quit. So what do you do? Right? What do I do? How do I create a renewed love for this thing that I know that I got to get up and go do every day? And I think that those are, you know, that what that becomes then is it becomes a good life lesson for your child of, you know, here is something that you're learning through a sport that's actually going to benefit you down the road. So find that love again. And then I think I mentioned this earlier, go ahead and start that hobby. If one of your reasons is that you want to start doing something else in place of it, you know, I want to learn how to work on car engines. Okay, do that. Just do it while you're also playing the sport.
Sure.
Why can't you do both? Right?
Yeah.
Start that hobby and then see what happens. See how maybe that kind of rearranges some parts of your life that causes you to go, okay, I kind of this was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And it makes me kind of want to go to practice now. It makes me kind of want to do, you know, sometimes, you know, routines are great, but sometimes routines become ruts. And if you feel like it's a rut, then just break up that rut a little bit. You know, if you're in a rut, okay, then I'm going to detour over here just for a second and do this fun thing. You know, go hunting, go fishing, go, you know, take my girlfriend on a date, whatever. Come back in, and now it's not a rut. It's like, okay, I'm back at it. I like this. And I really think that can be helpful. I really do.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You're talking about work. You're talking about hobbies. You know, you talk about baseball. You're talking about religion.
Yeah, right.
Everything.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Weight room.
It happens in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Ruts do. Yeah. And so this is a learning experience then. If that's where you feel like you're at, child, then yeah, you're gonna hit it again.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit it again.
So what you're saying is, from a parent's perspective, something that we've talked about a lot is look as an opportunity to learn. You know, see what the opportunity in front of you is.
Yeah.
And for you as a parent, it's to teach, to guide, to mentor, to coach. And for this kid or athlete, it's their opportunity to learn that, you know, they're going to be in a situation like this where they're trying to make a decision that pulls them in different directions, probably more than once in their life.
Yes.
and honestly, as they go on, those decisions are going to carry a lot more weight, I would say.
Yeah. No doubt.
And you can't just make them off feelings, for sure. Can't make them on a whim. Can't.
Yeah, I would maybe make that another point. You know, be sure to point out, okay, let's not trust our feelings, right? Let's make a list. Let's make a logical, reasoned-based decision as opposed to a feelings-based decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it creates that process that it gives you, you know, tell your child, hey, let's have patience here, right? You don't have to quit right now. Let's have patience and let's work through the process. And if after you've worked through that process and you've had a great day and you come back and you still tell me you want to quit.
Yeah, that's good. That's great validation there.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that point, if the kid does come back and say, I still think I want to quit, what you've gained there from their experience of playing is still valuable.
Right.
You still use their commitment to the game for as long as what it was to teach them about life, and that's really what we do. That's what we want to do from day one until, you know, till the last day that they play or that we play. We want to be prepared. We want to be the best person that we could be. There you go. Good stuff.
So I have a question for you.
All right.
Was this a great podcast?
I don't know. I thought I did a really good job. I don't know.
Okay, that's all that matters. Because the follow-up question is then, do you still want to quit? You gonna stick with it?
Let me think about it. Yeah, I'll stick with it.
You got better things. You got better
let me
things
evaluate.
to do.
I
You got
make
things
a list.
coming up in your life here that you feel like you're gonna be a little busier. Or
I got to make a list to decide what I'm going to fill this Tuesday time slot with.
Okay.
As opposed to the podcast.
Gotcha. Okay.
So just, you know, I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation today. Coach, I did enjoy it.
I did too. You surprised me here with this one. I honestly didn't think it'd be that long of a talk, But here we are, about 45 minutes into it, and we've had a full episode of conversation that I thought was actually pretty good.
I won't bring up all
Pretty helpful, hopefully.
the suffering that I had to do last night when I brought the topic up, but we just move forward. But yeah, hey, I'll be here next week too, God willing. I'm not.
Oh,
kidding.
good.
So yeah,
Good. Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
we'll talk to you then.